Hello and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in business and in life and simplify it. Now, friends, I am so excited about today's guest, in particular because I feel like when you're running your own business, you're maybe a solopreneur and you're doing all the things. One of the things that people keep asking me for advice for and trying to find somebody who will simplify this is all about the marketing side of our business. And what I wanted to bring on today was Carmen Schreffler. She is going to help us clarify your brand's message and break it down in simple ways. Now, for most entrepreneurs who struggle to clarify and amplify their marketing story, Carmen really looks at storytelling as a passion, and she's been chasing it her whole life. Most recently, she became a StoryBrand certified guide. As a former pharmaceutical chemist turned marketer, Carmen has developed a unique perspective when it comes to capturing the story of business. She combines creative storytelling insight with analytical analysis to develop business strategies that increase the bottom line. For Carmen, the most rewarding part is helping women grow their business, whether it's from scratch to moving into seven-figure launches. And outside of the office, Carmen loves books, the woods, and travel. She's my kind of girl. I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast today, Carmen Schreffler. Hello, Carmen.
Hi, Mary.
I'm so glad that you are here.
I am too. Thank you.
So, Carmen, now you were recommended by a previous guest of ours, Abigail Steidley, and it seems that we know actually multiple people in the circles out in the world. Bev Barnes, who's been on our podcast, Jenny Shee, and we are so thrilled that you're coming on today to help us clarify your brand's message. So, I noticed in your work, you talk a lot about story-driven marketing. Why is this so important for entrepreneurs to start here first?
It's important because when we are as humans, we remember stories the most. Mm-hmm. We don't remember just random messages. It's those stories that captivate us and capture our imaginations and really help us to see what's possible.
Yeah.
And so if we can start there with our business story, then we'll be able to reach those goals that we have and, make money, which is why we do this, right?
So before you dive into kind of practical tips about storytelling and all this, what's your personal journey? How have you gotten to this point to be an expert on this?
So I actually started my business as a virtual assistant. And after a divorce, I needed to change direction, and I'd been a homeschooling mom for years. And I started that as a VA, and I saw that, what really the businesses I was working with were struggling with the most was marketing. And I went back to school. I went to Cornell University to learn strategic marketing. And I loved that, because it gave me this really solid foundation. But it was the storytelling, I've always loved to read and write and telling stories. And then I found Donna Miller's A Story Brand and became a StoryBrand certified guide. And having that clarity of how to really tell the story, because that's really where we get so hung up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that in that, how do we tell the story?
Mm-hmm. And we're big fans of Donald Miller over here at the Simplifiers podcast. I mean, his work is brilliant. And can you break us down really quick to understand the StoryBrand framework? Because it's all about you, spoiler alert, are not the hero of the story. Sorry. It's your clients, right? So talk to us about StoryBrand real quick.
Yeah, so StoryBrand, that is the one key thing that really sets it apart, I think, is that positioning yourself not as the hero of the story, but as the guide. And when you position yourself as the guide and your customer as the hero, so that's really the center of the StoryBrand framework, is really focusing on positioning your customer as the hero and showing them that if you give them the tools that they can do this and they can achieve for themselves. And that's such a shift from the way that, so many people are telling you to market out there. And the difference it makes is incredible. I've had clients who've implemented it and, their open rates and their conversion rates double.
Yeah.
I mean, just incredible to watch how powerful it is.
So show us a bad example of, somebody who's not using storytelling. Give us a brief idea, and then tell us about somebody who maybe a client of yours that's doing really good stuff with storytelling.
Sure. So, I think the ones that are not doing well are pretty much any of the internet marketers who you watch who are like, 7 figures, I did it in my business. Watch this. And they don't really tell you the truth anyway, right? Like they're probably spending 6 figures to get their 7 figures.
Right.
I mean, so that whole focusing on oh, well, it's all about me is definitely not the way to go. Mm-hmm. And so, but I have a client, she's actually a genealogist. But one of the things that she's doing is showing that she can really give them the tools. And so it's not that she doesn't talk about herself at all, but she's saying, here is your plan. If you take this course, it's going to give you these tools, which is going to help you to unlock your family history. Mm-hmm. And it's just that simple. And it's using really simple words. One of the things that, is the clarity and the clarifying, really clarifying your message. Because using the words that your customer relates to is something that we don't do very well. Mm-hmm. And that is really important. And so if we can listen to the words our customers using and not the words that we think they should, right? Because we get caught in that expertitis. I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to use all these fancy words so I can show how intelligent I am.
Right. All the jargon. Because if they don't know what the jargon is, then, they've got to hire me then because I know all the jargon and you don't know anything. It's all bonkers, right? It's baloney.
It is all baloney. Yes. And so when we use real words that they know and understand, then they're like, oh, yeah, that's what I need. And they feel more comfortable with you. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, this is someone I can trust. This is someone I can talk to because she gets me.
Right.
And she understands.
And I think that's huge. The she gets me is huge. We incorporate elements of StoryBrand into our own marketing message. And we've heard that over and over and over again once we started doing it as well. Oh, Mary, you are in my head. You understand what really is I'm struggling with right now. And it's taking the spotlight off of me and taking the spotlight onto them, the client, and what their biggest pains and worries and concerns are. And, are there products and services that we provide that can help them alleviate that pain, right?
Absolutely.
I love about Donald Miller's approach is where it was a huge aha for me, and I'm sure it was the same for you, Carmen, is when he's well, think about every blockbuster movie you've ever seen. This framework sits in there. So Star Wars, there's the hero, Luke Skywalker, and there's the guide, Yoda, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones. There's always this kind of framework. And once you start to realize to shift the focus onto the client and their journey along the path and not you, you've seen it, right? The online marketers are laying out on top of a yacht or a Lamborghini. What? No one's buying that. No one believes that. I mean, at least I don't, right?
No. Yeah.
So tell us more about how we can really focus on story-driven marketing for our business.
So I think the way to really focus on it is if you do follow, if you create a brand script, which is one of the tools that Donald Miller has created, and you can get it for free. But if you create a brand script and you can use that then as your marketing filter. And so what that means is once you go through and create where you want to take your client, so, and how you want to guide them. So you really analyze your client, what their problems are, how you want to talk to them, how you want to position yourself as a guide, what the plan is that you want to present to them, and then what are the action steps that you want them to take.
Yes.
Because if you don't tell people clearly what to do, then they don't know.
Right. And and people don't read, so they're skimming. They're so skimming so fast, right?
Exactly. And so we often think that the story has to be lots of words on a website, but it doesn't, right? It's really simplifying and clarifying this framework. And then taking that and saying, okay, how do I apply this to my website? And making sure that everything that you put on your website fits into one of these categories. If it doesn't serve the story that you want to tell, then you have to stop and ask yourself, is it actually, why am I putting it here? Is it to serve my ego? Is it for another, like, what is it that is making me want this here?
Right.
And just being really, really clear. And maybe it's that you need to add something to your story, but it's making sure that you're doing it with intention.
So give us an example of something that would be noise and should be edited out.
So lots of times we want to be cute or clever in our words, even. Like we'll want to call it, schedule a rock and roll with me. Like, what is a rock and roll? Like, I don't know, right? Like, and it could be anything. It could be that you just want them to schedule a call. Maybe they're scheduling, a massage. Like, who knows? Like, and so it's just like, that's noise. Like, if we're making our customers think about what it is that we're trying to say to them,
right,
that's noise.
Right.
If we're using jargon, like you mentioned before, that's noise. If we're, let's say that I love to hike. If I wanted to put up a blog post that was about hiking, but didn't draw anyway, kind of in a comparison to marketing or like, why am I putting it there?
Right.
Like, what is the point?
Right.
Like, where is this taking how is this serving my hero in the story? And so those, or even if I'm like, I really love to cook. So I'm going to offer a course on baking. It has nothing to do with marketing. And so that is noise. And you see entrepreneurs do that all the time. We have women who are like, but I love all these things. I'm not asking you not to love all of the things. I'm asking you to choose the one that is where you want to focus your business and serve those people. Serve them.
Yeah. And I can certainly resonate with that, because I think that a lot of times when small business owners, and certainly people that are listening to this episode right now, you don't really know the cutoff of how much you share on social media and how much you hold back, and what is noise and what isn't noise, And so I think that this is the key thing that you just said, with this really important is, does it bring value to my reader, my follower, my client, or is it just extraneous nonsense? So bringing that message back. So what did I learn on my hike that, incorporates into how I market my business? So it helps you also discern, is this noise or is this of value to my audience before you post something out on social media?
Absolutely. And it is important. I do want to add, it is important to share some things, because I see some women go too far the other way, where every single post is only business focused.
Right.
And to remember that part of this story is you. So you're not the main feature, but you are the guide, and you want them to understand who you are and to be able to relate to you.
Yeah.
So it is sharing, maybe it's sharing that the walk in the woods was your way to unwind and give yourself downtime, to help your audience see I'm not working 24/7.
Right. You're not a robot.
Yeah. Right.
Real person. Yeah. Flaws and all.
Exactly. And that's the flaws and all is so important, I think, because, on social media, that tendency is to want to have it be Instagram perfect. And that's not what people relate to, right? They love to see that you're a real person. And that's so important to be part of your story. Like, if you show them that you're a real person, a real human who's there, who's been where they've been, and who falls down and gets back up. Yeah. And what does it look like?
Well, it's interesting to me, Carmen, I'm curious if you've seen this as well from a marketing's point of view. People's relationships with social media, and especially Instagram, have changed in 2018. From the start of 2018 to where we are now is very different. And I think that when I look back, it's key notable places where I think people just start to go, ooh, I don't know, is the Facebook Cambridge Analytica big trial and all of that. People just started to say, you know what? I don't know if I want to play this game as much as I used to. The rules of, I have to post every single day and it has to be filtered and perfect and at a great angle. It just doesn't seem to be what people want or trust anymore. Do you see that too?
I do. And that one of the things that I really emphasize with my clients is that we need to build their email lists. Having followers on social media is fabulous. And it is a great way for us to expand our networks and meet women that we would not be able to meet any other way because of, the world is a big place. But I think if you, to use social media well, it's about connecting and remember you're connecting with real humans.
Yeah.
I had a client recently who's like, well, I love to network with real people. And I said, well, the people on social media are also real people.
Right.
Remember that.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, and she didn't even realize in her head that she had that disconnect. So that's one thing, is to really remember they're real people, and then build your email list. Mm-hmm. That's yours. Facebook can't change the rules and take that away from you. Mm-hmm. Facebook also owns Instagram. So if they change the rules, it's going to affect both platforms. And so you control your email list, and people do still read emails.
I agree with that. And I think that we used to chase followers and, oh my God, once I hit 20,000 followers on blah, 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 then I'll really be big. But the reality is now people have hacked that system. They go onto Fiverr and they buy bots and things that, so I think there's a distrust in this day and age of, does that actually mean anything? It doesn't. Bottom line, if you are not cash in bank making clients and cash, then you don't have a business. And it doesn't matter how many followers you have. You're absolutely right. Your email list is something you can control because it is your own. Yeah.
It is your own. And I did have, I was recently in a meeting and someone asked me, they're like, people don't really read emails. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I was recently managing a launch for a client, and they wanted to focus primarily on social media for their conversions and only send minimal emails to their list. Mm-hmm. About halfway through the launch, they realized that, where we had projected we needed to be by that point was off significantly from where we've been in the past. Mm-hmm. So we doubled the number of emails to the list. We increased how much we were talking to the people who have asked to engage with us.
Right. They opted in.
They've expressed interest in what we're offering.
Yeah.
And the sales numbers went up, because to not tell your email list is actually doing those people a disservice. Mm-hmm. They've expressed an interest in what you are creating. They've expressed an interest in you, whether that list is 5 people or 5,000 people. Mm-hmm. You have to honor them and honor the fact that they've opted in. So it's making sure those emails are valuable, making sure that they give them great content, useful information, and then also giving them the opportunity to engage with you in a different way and pay for money, for your products, and pay you for a product. Mm-hmm. It's not you being... People, I think, they get all tangled up in how that, we're not supposed to ask for money,
right,
for product. We're not supposed to charge.
Right.
And
that's not true. Bottom line.
It's not true. It's just not true.
If you have a business, you need to be asking for money. You need to be selling products and services.
Right. You're selling products and services. And if you believe that those services are in line with the story, in line with the problem that you want to have, then that the customer's having, then it's really a service to them. Yes. You're saying, listen, I have this thing that I've created and this is how I can help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. That should be what your marketing is I have this thing and it's just how it can help you.
Yeah. And hey, it can help you with the biggest problems you have. And it is a disservice if you don't tell it to them, if you don't tell them about the thing. So let's back up a little. For a business, you hear a lot about like setting a mission statement, setting a vision statement, core values, all of that. How does one begin to create like a mission statement for their business? Where would they start?
So I would say that creating a mission statement for your business it's three simple elements really to be like a really simplified mission. The first part is clearly defining what the people you're serving most struggle with. So, most women struggle with clarifying their message and their marketing. So we create, and then you show them what you've created.
Yeah.
Right. So that you can, and then you show them what their success is. So it's really that simple. It's really knowing like, what is it that the problem is, why you're creating what it is you're creating, and just showing them that.
And what benefits they'll have from taking.
Right, and showing them the benefits that they'll have from taking that action.
Right.
And then that's really a summation of your journey for the customer, right? And so if you use that then as your mission statement, as your guide to refer to, like, again, it goes back to that filter, like, is what I'm creating, does it fit this picture I'm painting in this one simple statement? And so it's just those three parts: the problem, what you've created to solve the problem, and then what the success is that they'll get from that.
And it's so funny when you say it like that. And I really love how simple that is, because we all muck it up. We just think, oh, I've got to talk about this in like copious paragraphs, paragraph upon paragraph upon paragraph. And here's my backstory and blah, 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 blah. Like, people just want three simple elements. That's one sentence that you just said. Most people struggle with blah. So we created blah, and you will see blah. Period. End of, right? Drop the mic. Boom. That's it. That's as simple as that. And I challenge listeners out there that are listening to this episode, write that sentence out right now. Like, press pause, write it out, and go, oh, this is actually what we do at this business. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. And I would go a step further and encourage them, once they've written it out, to like stick it beside their computer, put it in their office, share it with if they have a team that works with them, share it with all of the members of their team. You want your team to internalize that message, because then they'll start to remind you, and they'll start to ask themselves when they're working on projects, like, how is this serving our mission? Like,
Right.
What is our mission? It also gives your team a way to talk about what you do. Like, I know, many women struggle with like, well, what do you do? Like, that's the famous American question. Like, what do you do? And so this gives you a really easy way to talk about what is it you do. And for other people then to share what you do. Like, oh, hey, I met this gal and this is what she does.
And I think that's a really important part, Carmen, is that to make sure that your whole team, whether it's contractors, virtual assistants, or employees, everybody's on the same page with what the mission statement is for your company. Because when they're out at networking events and they're saying, oh, well, yeah, I work for so-and-so. Oh, what do you do? Then you're able to give that elevator pitch, if you will, and say it succinctly. Also, I dare say it's really important to pull this out into a team meeting and have a conversation with it collectively, because one person at the table might be like, well, that's not what we do. We do this, this, and this, and we serve this person. And then you can have that team conversation of like, well, actually, here's who we're focused on, because then you can get people either in alignment and everybody buys in, or if somebody's just completely way off base, this is a great opportunity for them to jump off the ship and move on to wherever they're headed next. Because I say that with love, like you got to get everybody on the same page and in the same boat, heading down the same path, because if you don't, you're going to build products and services that don't serve your ultimate ideal client, that don't align with your mission statement, and that's going to confuse your audience, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you confuse your audience, they go elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. They're looking for something simpler that they get and they understand. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So talk to us about what you consider 3 elements to help us really grow our business. So you mentioned clarity, intuition, and analytical analysis. Why are those 3 things in your mind super important?
So we've talked a lot about clarity. Intuition I think is important because we know within ourselves when something feels right and doesn't feel right. But we're so trained to ignore that. But when we start to listen to that, we actually can start to serve better. And so, listen, if I was going to choose one word for marketing, what I would probably choose is listening.
Yeah.
Because the clarity comes from listening to our clients, listening to ourselves, and then listening to what the numbers are telling us. And, so if we listen to our clients, we get a clarity of message. We listen to our intuition. We get kind of clarity of what the path is we need to take, making sure that we're staying in our own integrity and that we're really serving and that we're staying on the right direction.
Yeah. Does this feel right as the next step for how I run my business? How, what next product and service I build and launch out into the world, all of that. Yeah.
And because if something doesn't feel right, you will put obstacles in your own path to stop it, right? You'll you'll procrastinate. You'll choose the wrong person to help you.
You'll self-sabotage.
You will self-sabotage if it doesn't feel right. So you might as well acknowledge how it feels to begin with and choose something that feels right so you can make more progress. And then analytical analysis is looking at the numbers. Like, don't be afraid to look at your profits, your expenses, your email list numbers, your open rates, everything, all of your numbers across the board. Not looking at them is not serving you. So really looking at them, getting familiar with them, knowing them, and using all of those to inform your decisions is going to put you in a much stronger position.
And I think that you are so dead on that. I give you a high five right now because it's true. Like, I think from a lot of our clients and people that we talk to on the business coaching side, they understand the clarity part to a certain extent. They understand the intuition part to a certain extent, and they skip right past the analytical stuff, right? Like, wait, how do I check my Google Analytics? Wait, how do I know what my numbers are? And they could just keep coasting, right? And there's so much data behind your business and behind your marketing efforts, your Facebook ads, all the things that you're throwing out into the world, that if you're not really drilling into that data, you're missing a trick right now, right?
Absolutely.
Because how else can you pivot and refine for the next time, Learn from what worked and what didn't work from the last launch you did.
That's right. There's always something to be learned, whether it's not successful, there's always more to be learned.
Yeah.
If we take the time to look and are willing to listen and see what we can do differently.
Mm-hmm. So you have a thing called the Wildpreneur Marketing Plan. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I know when you work with those clients, what are the first few steps when you're creating a marketing plan?
So the very first step is very much what we've talked about right now, is creating that StoryBrand BrandScript. That's really the first step. And Donald Miller does have a book, Building a Story Brand, and that's a great place to start for someone. But I do recommend, whether it's that you have your team work with you or you find a certified guide to work with you, because it's simple, but it's not easy, right? Like, because we have that tendency to want to use words, it's important to make sure you get or use too many words, I should say. It's important to get the brand script really nailed. So, because you're going to be using it across the board.
Yep.
So we start with that. And then we also, we create a plan for being consistent. We make sure that we have all of the foundational pieces in place, and we create a plan
and then
it'll help you.
When people work with you, is this through video calls or in person? I mean, you're based where in the U.S.?
I am based in Pennsylvania on the East Coast.
Yeah.
In the U.S., I have clients from all over the U.S. And Canada.
Yeah.
And I work with them through video calls primarily. I do occasionally go on site to clients' locations if they have events or special things that we're doing. But it's primarily through video calls. that we work together.
And you know what? That's so amazing. I think really in the last few years, we work with a lot of clients through video calls as well, because I'm based in Nottingham, England. So I'm on the other side of the planet. And I love the fact that technology has come so far for us to be able to connect with people just like that and help them so much easier. So that if you're a small business owner listening to this episode, I really encourage you, if you haven't started integrating video calls and webinars and things like that into your products and services, it's so much easier now than it was even a couple of years ago, and so much more affordable too.
Yes.
So,
and it brings that personal touch.
It does. It does. You are not just a person behind a screen that just sends out emails all day. Like, you're a person with a personality, and you know, like, you can connect with people so much more. So back to clarifying your brand's message. What do you think businesses do and flub this up beyond, you know, setting themselves as the hero? What other things do you see are key rookie mistakes people make?
Wanting to be clever, cute with their words. We talked briefly about that, like coming up with cute phrases, like trying to showcase how intelligent they are instead of being relatable.
Yeah.
Those are big mistakes. Not giving people a clear call to action, like, you know, kind of hemming and hawing, wanting to give them too many.
Yeah.
You know, there's that tendency like, oh, well, I could give them this, or they could have this variation, or they could have it with this. Oh, and they could put nuts on top.
Yeah.
And it's no.
Yeah.
Like, it's really just like saying, this is the offer. I mean, like, your podcast is about simplifying, and that actually is the most effective thing to do when we're doing our calls to action.
Yeah.
Tell them what we want them to do, give them the choices. And that doesn't mean that you can't customize a plan once you're talking to someone.
Right.
But if you're asking them to make too many choices, they'll get confused and then they'll just bounce.
Yeah. And they'll get fatigued and they'll just be like, this is too much. I can't figure it out. Ugh.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll just walk away.
Yeah.
So if you were sending an email, have one clear call to action. This is what I want you to do. Go here. And it could be that you want to give them something free. It could be that you're asking them to listen to a podcast. It could be that but don't like give them 16,000 choices.
Right, right. In the thought that if I just give them everything, they'll be like, oh my God, Mary's giving me all the things in the world. But in reality, it's like Mary's giving me way too much to figure out. Like, this is not simple at all. Now, I know about you is that your Wildpreneur clients that, by the way, Carmen's website is wildpreneur.com. We'll have the link in the show notes so you guys can check this out. Your clients are, you know, people like Martha Beck and Abigail Steidley, Bev Barnes. I mean, these are people in my mind who are magical people. They work in a different way altogether. They have a different playbook in front of them. They're all beautiful, wonderful souls. What do you think is the role of magic in kind of the work that you do, as well as the clients that you attract in your own business?
I think that the role of magic is really that listening to your intuition. You know, I mean, it's really that, because if you talk to any of them about magic, if you talk to Martha or Ab about magic, it's that soul connection. And we can't, in honoring that soul connection, whether it's in our marketing or if it's in how we do business, it's how we move through the world. And when we honor that soul connection, then we're giving from the heart. And that's the magic.
And that's true. I mean, no one likes to work with a robot. They want to work with real people. And when you can start to show your intuition, show personality details about yourself in your story, again, not as the hero, but as the guide, I think people start to build that know, like, and trust with you. And they go, this is my person. Carmen's going to help me with this, this, and this. I want to work with her. You know, makes you a magnet, I think, to like-minded people who think and work in your playbook as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You want people who are attracted to who you really are. You know, many people like struggle with like, well, I don't want to narrow my niche down because I could help all of these people. But really attracting those people who are most aligned with you is going to make your business the most fun because you're not going to have to be struggling uphill to convince them. You know, when I work with Martha or Ab or Byron Katie, like I don't have to convince them to follow their intuition. It's what they do.
Naturally.
that's how they roll. Like
Yeah.
if I tried to tell them not to, then we would be in trouble.
Right.
So it's important they know that I'm going to honor that in them. And so it's it's a cycle of of attracting the people that you most resonate with.
And that's it. Like, I think what has been revolutionary in our own business, once we really started to embrace that about 4 or 5 years ago, you get super clear on who you really, really, really want to work with. We call it the ultimate ideal client, like that one person that if you could replicate them over and over and over again, life would be amazing. Once you're really clear on who that one person is, boy, howdy, like your work becomes so much more pleasurable because you're attracting that person to you. They're vibing on your vibes, you're vibing on their vibes, and it's like work is not necessarily easy, but work is pleasurable.
It is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have fun, you can laugh. I mean, just because it's work doesn't mean it has to be a slog, right? It can actually be fun. It can be energizing to create and to share it. It doesn't have to be, feel like work right, in a bad sense.
Well, and in that, I mean, I'm sure you've heard it as well. Like, you need to repel the people that are not those people as much as you need to attract the people that you really, really, really want to work with. And that's where the magic is. And I think what people forget, this is where we get into fear state. We go, oh, if I niche down way too far, then there's not going to be enough clients in the world. Like, spoiler alert, there is a ton of people in the world. And remember, a few minutes ago, we talked about video technology makes it easier than ever to have clients all over the world like we do, because it is possible. Your petri dish of people doesn't just exist in the city that you happen to be located in. You can have an online business so much easier now and expand your reach to clients around the world. Now, if you're a landscaping company, a little bit harder. You got to mow the lawns in the city that you're in. But doing work that you do, being a graphic designer, being a bookkeeper, being a coach, whoever, the possibilities are endless and the client base is endless as well, right?
Absolutely.
So niche down is what you're saying.
I am, totally. Niche down. There's no way around it, honestly, if you're going to really propel your business forward.
Yeah. Any final tips on clarifying our brand message, things that we need to know?
I would say just listen and make sure that, you're really listening to your clients and you're making them the hero.
Yeah. So, and when you're listening to your clients, like that could be also market research, doing a quick 1 or 2 question quiz on a Google form, pushing that out to your audience, and just so that you can start to get things in their language when they respond back to that online survey, use those words exactly how they have placed it down. Like, what's your biggest frustration? Da 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 da. Use that in your copywriting and your future marketing message.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Use the words your customers are actually saying, not what you think they're saying, the actual words they are saying.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask people for feedback like that. So Carmen, tell us, what's one book maybe that you're reading right now or blog that's inspiring you or challenging you?
I am reading Steal the Show by Michael Port, which is a great book on public speaking and really like how to talk to your audience. It's a fabulous book right now.
Excellent.
Really love it.
Excellent. And of course, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. We'll put the links to both of those books down in the show notes for people. But I've not heard the Michael's book. So I'm intrigued by that one. I definitely want to check it out.
Very good.
What are some tools or apps that you're using right now that help you simplify?
I am, they're pretty basic apps, but I love Trello. I use Trello all the time to manage my to-dos and combine my calendar with my to-dos. I also use it for content planning. I had a lot of questions about, like, what do you use for content creation? Trello and Google Drive. Those 2 simple tools, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yes.
And then for communication with clients, I've been using Voxer. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's like a walkie-talkie app, but it gives clients that ability to ask you a quick question, especially if you're a coach or you're working with people one-on-one. It enables you to have instant communication without necessarily having to find time to schedule a meeting.
And so when you use Voxer, do you do that one-to-one with people, or do you have like a group kind of
No,
Yeah.
it's usually one-to-one. Occasionally it'll be a group if it's a team, part of a team that we're working with.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's one-to-one. And it's really so that if they get stuck, they can reach out right away and say, this is where I'm struggling. And it ends up helping them to be able to move forward much more quickly. Because instead of spending all this time in that spiral, oftentimes it's really easy to get someone to move out of it in just a little twist.
Yeah.
And they can keep moving and make progress.
So Voxer is the app, and again, we'll put the links down in the show notes, and it's just simple voice memos back and forth, kind of like WhatsApp, but just strictly voice for people. Brilliant. So who is one person in your network or social circle that you think we should interview on the Simplifiers podcast, and why?
I would say Sarah Papp. She is a coach who helps people to stop hustling and to work with ease, whether they're in the corporate environment or an entrepreneur, and she's a mom of 2 beautiful girls, and she really gets it because she's been there.
Yeah.
And making that shift from like hustle, hustle, hustle to working with ease is kind of her genius.
Yeah. So. Sarah sounds like my kind of girl. We'll definitely have her on the podcast soon then. Carmen, for me, gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what's one thing you're grateful for right now in your life?
I think, I would have to say that it's my parents, honestly, as cliche as that may sound, but I'm really thankful and grateful for the support that they've always given me my whole life.
Yeah.
It's made the whole difference, and they have supported me on my journey as an entrepreneur, and I've been very grateful.
Yeah. My parents are 74 and 76 at the time of this taping. And so, I'm grateful for every single day with them. Even though, sadly, they're on the other side of the planet, I get to at least see them via Skype every week. So if people want to connect with you, where do you hang out the most online?
Mostly I'm on Instagram at Wildpreneur, and you can also find me on my website. Okay. Wildpreneur.com.
Great. And so again, we'll put those links down in the show notes for you guys. And also, Carmen is providing us a free little cheat sheet, 6 things you need to grow your audience and your bottom line. So go to wildpreneur.com/simplify to check that out and download that for free. So Carmen, before I ask the final question, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I think what you are doing is brilliant. First and foremost, we believe in Donald Miller and all of his work, and I know that what that takes to follow that as a StoryBrand guide is huge, and it's going to help so many businesses around the world to clarify their brand message, to walk through a whole new stage of growing their business, and I think this work is so necessary because the world is super noisy right now. So I just applaud you for what you're doing, because I think it's very smart and much needed in the world right now. So Carmen, my last question for you is this. Someone's listening to this episode and going, wow, this is a lot simpler than I realized. Like, oh, maybe I don't need to have a Lamborghini and 7-figure hustle and grind to be successful in your business. So she's inspired, but maybe she just doesn't quite know where to begin with all of this. If there is one thing you could whisper into her ear right now just to encourage her on her path, what would you say?
I would actually tell her she already has everything that she needs, and just to trust herself and really just listen to herself, listen to what her customers are saying, and then she has it all already.
Carmen, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.